The night was perfect. The clear, starry sky stretched endlessly, and the gentle breeze brought a coolness that contrasted with the summer heat. Clara, in her light dress, felt the fabric caress her skin as she walked towards the agreed-upon location, a secluded field, far from the city lights. There, the stars shone more brightly, and the silence was interrupted only by the distant sound of cicadas and the whisper of the wind in the trees. She and Lucas had been planning this date for days, a date that seemed to promise more than just a night of stargazing. There was something in the way he looked at her, something deep, that betrayed an unspoken desire. Every casual touch, every exchange of glances over the past few months had built a growing tension between them. When Clara arrived at the place, Lucas was already there, lying on a large blanket, looking at the sky. He stood up as soon as he saw her, the smile he gave lighting up his face in a way that made her heart beat faster. "You're right on time," he said, his voice low and soft, as he held out his hand to her. Clara accepted his hand, and when Lucas's fingers wrapped around hers, she felt a shiver run through her body. He gently pulled her close, his eyes locking with hers for a moment before he looked away to the starry sky above. "The stars seem closer here, don't you think?" he murmured, pulling her to lie next to him on the blanket. They sat in silence for a few minutes, both of them admiring the endless sky above. The air around them seemed thicker, charged with a silent tension. Clara could feel the heat of Lucas's body next to hers, their closeness igniting a desire she could barely control. When she finally turned to look at him, he was already watching her, his eyes shining in the dim starlight. "You look beautiful tonight, Clara," he said softly, his voice thick with intent. "You're not too bad yourself," she replied with a shy smile, but her thoughts were far from any joking. Lucas slowly raised his hand and gently touched Clara's face, his fingers gliding delicately across her skin. The touch, though light, made Clara's body warm, a heat that came from within and radiated to every extremity. He leaned closer, his lips just inches from hers but not quite touching. Clara's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could hear it. The air around them was thick with anticipation, time seemed to stand still. When he finally kissed her, the touch was soft, almost like a question. But Clara didn't hesitate to answer. She leaned into him, deepening the kiss, allowing the desire that had been pent up over the last few months to take over. Lucas's hands were now on her waist, gently pulling her closer. Their bodies, aligned under the starry sky, began to move in sync. The kiss between them became more intense, more passionate. Lucas slid his hands down, grabbing Clara by the waist and pulling her towards him. Her body was pressed against his, and she could feel every contour of Lucas's body against hers. Clara ran her hands over his shoulders, feeling the firmness of his muscles beneath the thin fabric of his shirt. She could feel the heat in his body growing, as did hers. Lucas's fingers explored her back, moving up and down slowly, as the kiss became hungrier, more urgent. They broke apart for a moment, both panting, their eyes fixed on each other. Lucas slid his fingers down Clara's neck, leaving a trail of heat in his wake. "I've waited so long for this," he whispered, his eyes burning with desire. Clara smiled, her lips still tingling from the kiss. "Me too," she replied, her voice soft but thick with anticipation. Lucas leaned toward her again, this time kissing her neck, his breath warm against her sensitive skin. She closed her eyes, allowing herself to feel every touch, every caress. Her hands moved down his arms, until they reached the hem of his shirt. With slow, calculated movements, she began to unbutton it, revealing the warm, firm skin of his chest. The touch of her fingers against Lucas's bare skin caused him to let out a low groan, and Clara smiled, pleased that she was affecting him as much as he was affecting her. When she finally finished unbuttoning his shirt, Lucas tossed it aside, his body now completely exposed to the soft starlight. He pulled her closer, his hands now exploring her body more freely. Lucas slid his fingers up Clara's thigh, slowly moving up, causing her body to arch in response to his touch. The intensity between them grew with each passing second. Clara could feel the desire growing inside her, the heat in her body reaching an almost unbearable point. Lucas laid her gently on the blanket, the starry sky serving as a silent witness to the moment between them. Their lips met again, this time with more urgency, and Lucas's hands began to explore even further. He slid his fingers over Clara's soft skin, each touch causing a new wave of pleasure. Her body reacted to his every movement, both of them lost in the moment, completely given over to the desire that consumed them. The stars shone brightly above them, but nothing else mattered beyond the warmth of their bodies entwined and the feeling of being connected in a deep, intimate way. The world around them faded away, leaving only the sound of their ragged breathing and the rapid beating of their hearts. The climax of desire came in waves, each more intense than the last, and when they finally reached their peak together, it was as if the universe had aligned at that exact moment. Clara and Lucas lay side by side, their bodies still entwined, their hearts beating in unison. They stood there, silent, looking at the stars, now no longer as simple observers, but as part of them, as if the love between them had become an extension of the night sky itself.